Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Trash Talk. I'm here with a very, very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Channel Pub. Hi, how you doing?
And for just some people that maybe don't know or aren't very familiar with your content, would you just like to give like a brief overall of what you do on your channel?
Sure. I do a lot of kind of like retrospectives on kind of like I guess nerdy culture stuff. So like superhero movies, but also like to some extent video games, mainly like platformers like Sonic the Hedgehog and Klonoa and stuff like that. Like I'm kind of very upfront that I do have like favorites in kind of those genres as well. So given that like I do superhero content, the thing that does get the lion's share of that is like Spider-Man is like the main kind of go-to. But I've kind of been lucky enough to not just kind of get tucked into the niche of being like a Spider-Man channel or a Sonic channel. I'm kind of at my liberty to, for the most part, just be able to talk about whatever I'm kind of most interested at that stage, or kind of, I guess, whatever generally people are most interested in at that stage when it comes to kind of the things that I'm interested in anyway. Yeah, there's basically kind of a small sort of variety of topics that I kind of discuss, but it all kind of comes under that sort of pop culture blanket, if you will.
No, yeah, 100%. And just like getting straight into it, right? Because you make very long videos sometimes. I know you've just released a video on all 20 live action batsuits ranked from worst to best, and that's a 52 minute long video. So for you, what does your average video content creation process look like? So what does the scripting look like? Just making the video in general.
Well, it's changed a lot over
Hmm.
the past couple of months, honestly. Like, I've completely reshifted the focus of my channel. There was a time when it was more of a news channel, so videos would
Yeah.
range from around about 8 minutes or so in terms of length. Now it's like if I can't get it out to at least 20 minutes, it's not worth making effectively. Um, just because like I find that even with lower views and stuff, like it's just a more sustainable model if I'm doing,
Hmm.
longer form stuff. But the current process is basically it's more retrospective based now. I don't do news videos anymore unless there's a way
Yeah.
of turning that news into a greater topic. For example, we had the gameplay reveal for the new Spider-Man video game, which is obviously a sequel to Spider-Man PS4 or Spider-Man Remastered, whichever version you play.
Hmm.
And like we got the gameplay reveal, and I didn't want it to just be like, this is the gameplay reveal, this is what's here. I wanted to kind of talk about how it addresses the issues that Spider-Man game sequels can face. So I'm now kind of there's a new layer to kind of what I do. If like I come up with a topic, I'll think about like how can I make this into, I guess, a slightly more unique discussion? What kind of perspective do I want to approach this with? Um,
Hmm.
and then I'll go to making notes. And making notes can vary from just like a basic skeleton to sometimes being a bit meatier in terms of scripting, but I don't generally like fully blown script my videos. A lot of it is ad lib. It used to be all ad lib now, but nowadays, like I've got some notes to just help me along, basically.
Yeah.
And then yeah, basically record that. Then I'll basically animate like I don't know a minute or two of like this character puppet thing, which is like the mascot for the channel and everything. He introduces the video, and then we kind of go from there to intercutting between images of whatever it is I'm talking about or gameplay. But I generally don't use video footage if I'm talking about movies, just because YouTube's copyright system's busted. Like
Yeah.
fair use can only go so far in protecting you, but if a company wants to be an asshole, they want to be an asshole. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's generally the process, and it generally takes about a day to get a video made nowadays.
Hmm.
It used to be I could get like multiple videos done in a day. Nowadays, it's like one a day. But there's a bit more leeway in my schedule as well now because I do things like maybe like 2 videos a week or 3 videos a week as
Yeah.
opposed to one every day, which I used to do. I think it's one of those things where you kind of learn what you want to get out of your channel and stuff. I mean, I've been doing this for like, I don't know how many years exactly now, but I started the channel in 2018 and
Hmm.
only just like midway through last year, I kind of came up with an actual long-term plan for where I want this channel to go, basically. So yeah, it's a lot of kind of making it up as I go along, basically. But we're getting there.
No, yeah, 100%. And I do find a lot with channels, especially when I speak to content creators that do make quite longer form videos, right? Like not the stereotypical like 8 minute videos, but like we're going like speaking like 30-minute videos. That their content creation process, it's almost as well like it feels like you've got it down to a T, right? It feels like you've got it, you know what you're doing and stuff. So on the same vein of that, since sort of like changing your content from the news type stuff, what's been your favorite video to make?
I've really enjoyed doing the Spider-Man retrospective series.
Mhm.
Obviously, like I love the Spider-Man movies, like all of them. I've got a lot of love for all of these movies. Um, so obviously, going back and watching them and being able to just really communicate what it is that matters so much about these movies and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
obviously, like Spider-Man has had a lot of filmmakers making Spider-Man. Like it's not like say with Iron Man, we've got like Shane Black, the Russo brothers, and John Favreau, obviously being the first one. With Spider-Man, there's like so much history to it and so many different stamps, so many different depictions of that character. So you've got that new element of being able to kind of compare and contrast. It's why one of the next ones I'm going to be doing is Batman as well, because
Hmm.
Batman has a long and diverse legacy of kind of different actors, different approaches, different styles. And I love just talking about that and kind of comparing, contrasting, but also kind of looking at these things as like what was the plan for this version? What was the take? What was this version's key appeal? Um, but I also love doing like I guess game reviews, particularly for like Sonic Frontiers. I did a review of that. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes things very easy for me if I'm doing like a review of like say a Sonic game or something because they don't really care about copyright as much as say movies do. You know, like
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
yeah, like fair use with video games is much more of a gray area anyway. But like there's just much more versatility in like the video creation process. Whereas like if I'm doing a video on a movie, it's like I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have the movie here, but I'm just gonna take stills from it and then pop that into Premiere, basically.
No, yeah, 100%. And of course, like you mentioned earlier, right? You're at liberty really to make any video that you want to make, right? You're not set in stone with like the genre of like you cover, right? You can bounce between superhero stuff and whatever, right? So you're really in a good position there. And like, of course, like, I found your channel through of like a couple of your Doctor Who videos, right?
Oh right, yeah.
And yeah, and so for you, like, just as a like, I know you spoke quite a bit about Spider-Man and stuff, and saying how much you genuinely enjoy like the Spider-Man movies. For you, like, what's your favorite IP besides Spider-Man?
Oh geez. Okay. So I think my favorite IP of all time is not one I do videos on very often because like while I do
Mhm.
have a certain degree of leeway, I don't just get stuck into being Spider-Man or Sonic or whatever.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
can be quite difficult to pop a new IP into the mix. But
Mhm.
my favorite IP of all time is Toy Story.
Oh yeah, right. And is there any reason for that? Because I know like I love the Toy Story films, especially the first three. So like, what for you like screams out for Toy Story to like be your favorite IP?
I guess it was. I mean, there's the fact that they are just incredibly high quality movies for one. I would say that yeah, like Toy Story one. I'd even include four. They are, in my opinion, perfect movies. Like they do excellent stuff with the characters. They have
Hmm.
something bigger to say on like growing up and maturity and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
they obviously there's the emotional resonance. That's like the first thing anyone thinks about when they
Hmm.
think Toy Story. Um, but it's also just like Woody is like such a well realized character. This guy goes through the entirety of the emotional spectrum, like from Toy
Yeah.
Story 1 all the way through 4, but you also really mature with him as well. Like, I think in a lot of sense, like, you got Toy Story 1 and Buzz thinks, he's a space ranger and that's kind of the gimmick, but going from 1 to 4, I feel like that's Woody growing out of being the sheriff. I feel like, if anything, it's kind of got a longer form narrative pertaining to that. I think Woody has more in common with Buzz than he necessarily realizes. But as for also why it kind of, is so near to me is like, I think Toy Story 1 is the first movie I ever remember watching. Like, we had it on
Hmm.
VHS and I would watch it a lot and I was obsessed with it. And I know that the first film I ever saw in the cinema was Toy Story 2. So I think it's one of
Yeah.
those things that very deep, like very deeply rooted in like my soul, if you will. I don't know, like my consciousness, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 100% get that. Like, I feel like, of course, you've always got those movies that are going to be like mean more to you, right? And for whatever reason, for you, it's the fact that Toy Story was the first movie you can remember watching, and you went to the cinema to see the second one. And just real quickly, I do want to ask a question there is a lot of controversy around Toy Story 4 and like
Mhm.
any possible sequels they do make. So what is your stance on Toy Story 4 and the future of the Toy Story franchise?
You know, it's funny. We were just actually recently watching Toy Story 4 because my roommate Sam had never seen it, and he was quite firmly in the camp of like three's where it should end, basically.
Hmm.
And it's a perspective I do understand. When they first announced Toy Story 4, I was like, really? That is that a good idea? But I think like Toy Story 1 through 3 is the story of like Woody with Andy and stuff like that. But the thing is, there's this when you live for other people and exclusively for other people, it can be a little unhealthy.
Hmm.
So, one thing Woody never quite overcomes is living for someone else, living for his human god that he serves effectively. And I think Toy Story 4 ends the series with Woody in a much healthier place than 3 does. Woody's now acting for himself. He's no longer the sheriff of the bedroom. Boy, that sounds wrong, but like, yeah, he's no longer the sheriff of a kid's bedroom. He's his own little person that's living in the Grand Basin and stuff like that. And I just thought that was a great place to end it. But also, as I was kind of watching it, I was like, Toy Story 3 was an excellent ending to that story, but with films as good as this, with as much as I love Toy Story 4, is that to say that this film, no matter how good it is, has no right to exist just because we have something that is a good jumping off point? As far as
Yeah,
I'm concerned, if they're still going to be of that standard, then they can make as many as they want, but I will say this. Toy Story 3 was a good jumping off point and was a good ending. Toy Story 4 was a good jumping off point and a good ending. I think going into 5, because obviously they've announced that, they either need to say, okay, we're going to be doing more of these and stop pretending to end it all the time. Because,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can only have so many of those chapters. I'm fine with, multiple stories getting their own closure respectively. Like, Toy Story 4 feels like a very self-contained thing. In fact, in Germany, the film was called A Toy Story, All Is Quiet Without the Commander. So it wasn't called Toy Story 4. They were kind of
Mhm.
treating it as more of like a self-contained thing over there in a way. And I think that works, because it is very much Woody's movie. It is more of a coda than it is a conclusion, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5, it either really, really, really needs to be the last one. They really mean it this time. Or it needs to leave things a bit open-ended and just say this is for a new generation to enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. I do like agree with you with like Toy Story 4 being like a real like sort of like really like impacted story, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't connect to like all the other ones. It's very self-contained. And if you view it as just almost like a solo spin-off, right? I think you can actually enjoy the movie a lot more than viewing it as like the next movie in like the Toy Story franchise. And just in regards to like Toy Story 5, I 100% feel like it should be the last. And depending what they do with it, I don't know if like, especially with what they're gonna do with like, I don't know if Woody's coming back, what they're gonna do with it.
It seems
But
like Woody's coming
yeah,
back. Like, Tim Allen certainly hinted at it. And I'll say this,
yeah,
it will be difficult to reunite those characters in a way that isn't going to feel kind of contrived. The other thing is, like, you could make an argument, say, new generation of toys, just focus on new ones. But the thing with those next generational things, those like passing over of the torch movies and stuff, is often like the reality is when you see a Toy Story film, you want to see Buzz Lightyear, you want to see Woody, just as when you see a Star Wars movie, you want to see Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and stuff like that. It's
hmm,
very difficult to kind of divorce the association or the reliance on those characters, because there's a reason why these franchises relied on those characters in the first place. There's a reason why if you make an Indiana Jones movie without Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, it's gonna be a hard sell, is because that was why
hmm,
we liked it. We liked those characters. We didn't
yeah,
just like the concept. Because otherwise, action adventure movies with swashbuckling protags would be a guaranteed money. And like it would be like you could make any movie with any amount of toys and it would be a guaranteed success,
hmm,
Like it's about those characters, and I don't believe that you can't make characters that live up to that, but it's an uphill battle.
yeah, 100%. And I feel like as well, with in regards to Toy Story 5, I feel like like of course, like Woody coming back and stuff, it almost feels like as well like they're sort of like going back on the ending they did give him as well in Toy Story 4, which again, like I can see why a lot of people would be like frustrated with that, just like accepting Toy Story 4 and then being handed this as well. So I'm hoping the movie will be good, and I've got faith in them that the film will be like a genuine fun watch. But at the same time, I feel like after the fourth one and how actually decent the fourth one was, I feel like they just need to pick a lane. Basically, if they're going to end it, they're going to continue it, and you just
Agreed.
go with it.
They're playing a dangerous game. I'll say that much. If they can make it good, they can make it good. I mean, like, yeah, like I personally thought they had the right idea with the Buzz Lightyear movie. Like, I seem to be in the minority of people that really enjoyed that movie, but
Hmm.
I thought the idea of you keep these characters in the public consciousness by doing kind of the in-universe IP version of that character. I thought that was genius. Do you Buzz Lightyear? You could have like a Disney Plus series of Woody's Roundup and do it with wooden puppets, just like it was
Yeah,
portrayed
yeah.
in Toy Story 2.
Hmm.
Like,
No,
and could be
100%.
potentially popular. Like, but I think the lack of enthusiasm towards Lightyear, maybe the box office numbers or something, kind of sent the message to kind of Pixar that it's like, okay, people want to see these characters together. People like the Tim Allen version of Buzz Lightyear, and it is what
Yeah.
it is. You know, I'm not going to condemn audiences for not going to see it and stuff like that. Like, maybe it was the marketing or whatnot. I know that there's people that were like, I wanted this to be more like Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. There were some people that wanted a much wider scale space adventure. I thought, as a piece of sci-fi, I thought it was really good, but not everyone
Hmm.
agrees with me. I'm clearly in the minority there. Of
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. And just like moving on to like a question that I know will take up quite like a bit of time.
course.
Of course, the new Spider-Man movie just recently came out.
Yes.
And for everyone, like there should be a spoiler warning for like anyone that hasn't gone to go and see the movie. So click off and then come back later when you have watched the film. But I know you did make a film review on your channel. But I just want to ask you personally, like, what were your overall thoughts on the film?
I thought it was just fantastic. I
Hmm.
thought it was absolutely brilliant. I don't know where to begin. Like I never
Hmm.
know where to begin. Even in my video, I say I'm not even sure where to begin. But I think these Spider-Verse movies are not only revolutionary, but they are elevating the bar, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, and in a way that it's like not the things that are good about these movies are not exclusive to animation. You know, there's
Hmm.
like things that these movies are doing that I don't understand why we don't get stuff like that in the live action ones these days.
Yeah. No, no,
Like,
no, 100%.
there's that shot where, like, you know, Gwen and Miles are talking on that, rooftop gargoyle clock tower thingy. And there's this shot where Gwen just walks around to the bottom of it and the camera rotates with her. And it's like, why have we never gotten stuff like that in
Hmm.
Spider-Man? Like, I feel like it's more kind of, I guess, with more recent ones as well, because obviously, like, Sam Raimi was always very out there with, like, the camera work and the transitions, very comic booky. I think, you know, the Spider-Verse movies represent, like, getting back to those comic roots and letting that into the filmmaking process a bit more. And I fully welcome that. I think nowadays, especially, like, don't get me wrong, I really do like the MCU, but nowadays, when we're in that fifth phase now, and I feel like it struggles sometimes to justify itself, going for something way more stylized and way more in touch with its comic booky roots would be an excellent direction to take going forward.
Yeah. No, no, I can 100% see that, and I do believe that the like, especially with like the Miles Morales like saga, right? I do believe that like really encapsulates it, right? Like
Mhm.
it shows like more of the comic side as well. I think, and like especially with the most recent film. And I do want to like just ask you because I know there's a bit of controversy around like the ending of the film,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
um just how it like ended and stuff, which I personally, right, before we dive straight into it, like I don't personally have an issue with it because I went into the movie knowing that there's going to be like another part to it.
Yeah.
um but for you, like, do you understand why some people are a bit annoyed about the ending, or what, like what's your take on that?
I'm surprised, but I kind of get it. I'm surprised that it's gotten this reaction, given that I thought we were a bit more familiar with this type of storytelling than I guess we were. Because I feel
Hmm.
like, you know, Infinity War,
Yeah.
The Empire Strikes Back, they all kind of end on these cliffhangers. And I guess what people have said is, Yeah, but basically, like, you've got an ending for Infinity War in that Thanos won, basically. As I could kind of see that, but at the same time, I think you've got an ending here too. Miles
Hmm.
has rejected the Spider Society. He's gone off on his own path, and now he's found himself trapped in a dimension that isn't his own. That's a fine
Yeah.
ending. Gwen Stacy finally being accepted by her father. That's an ending.
Hmm.
The fact that, she has had a change of heart and she's assembled a team of spider people to go and help Miles and go against Miguel O'Hara. That's an ending. Like, I think there's enough here to say that while, yeah, the core conflict isn't resolved, there's still enough resolution to this film for me to happily say this is a film, a complete
Yeah,
product.
100%.
It's not a complete story, but it's a complete chapter, like, and I'm
Yeah.
completely fine with that. And, I don't think we should discourage episodic storytelling in cinemas. Like, if, they're building up to this massive 5-hour magnum opus that completely transcends anything that's been done with the genre before, I say let them, I say let them
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. And just like expanding on your point there, like they did give like a great conclusion, right? It like ended on a great cliffhanger as well. Like I'd be a bit more annoyed if we were in like a middle of the action, it just cut to black and said it will continue next year or whatever. But it didn't do that. It gave like a great conclusion. It gave like a wrap on the story arcs of that film, right? Like everyone, like from the beginning to the end, like they got their conclusion to that specific part of the story.
Yeah, and I
So
mean, the
I.
big cliffhanger was kind of pertaining to Prowler more so than anything else anyway. And Prowler
Yeah.
wasn't really properly introduced to that story until the last 15 minutes. So it's like, the thing they're setting up is still something new. That's a new conflict. Miles versus Miles. His new destiny versus his old one, Like,
Yeah.
that, they're still setting up a story that kind of stands apart from everything else that's going on, So I
Hmm.
think it's like in the same vein that, like, and it's probably not a great example because I know that not a lot of people like this movie. I, for one, think it is the worst Spider-Man movie, but I still like it. Amazing Spider-Man 2 ended on a cliffhanger with the Rhino and the Sinister Six being assembled and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But it still wrapped up Peter's arcs. Now, I guess you could say that that's still a film that offers a bit more finality than Across the Spider-Verse does. But again, like, I'm not against or averse to this more episodic style of storytelling, provided that I still get a satisfying experience. We still got that. We still got, cathartic resolution to Gwen's story, to Miles and the Spider Society, and we still got a final battle as well with Miles and Miguel on the train, which was awesome. So yeah, I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
complaining. I got my money's worth.
No, 100%. Like it was a movie that was filled full of cameos, full of action, full of great storytelling. Like I don't know why people are genuinely getting so hung up on this like ending, which is a good ending of that specific section of the film, right? Like so, I genuinely feel like people like should have got used to this by now, right? There's been so many films, especially in recent, right? Like you said, Avengers: Infinity War being like probably one of the biggest ones in the last like 10, 20 years, right? Like I feel like, especially with Marvel, right? I feel like people should be getting more used to like endings like this because there's nothing wrong with a cliffhanger, especially if it's executed properly, which I do believe this was executed properly.
It's one of those things where if they announced that the Spider-Verse trilogy was cancelled,
Hmm.
um, I'll be very disappointed that we're not getting a third one, but I'd still be happy with Across the Spider-Verse. I'd still call it a really great movie. I mean, what I will say though is it's one of those things where I haven't discussed the movie much in terms of spoilers because, like, not everyone will have seen it and stuff like that. But I can't really necessarily say that I understand why some people might be dissatisfied with the ending. I can only say that I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't want to risk, misrepresenting an alternate viewpoint, I guess. So I probably won't go too far into that, but I'm
Hmm.
sure they got their reasons. It's just
Yeah, no,
I'm
yeah.
yet to hear them, I guess.
No, 100%. And like just like starting to wrap the podcast up.
Sure, sure.
Like my final question to you is just in reference to like some of the new videos you're going to do. Like you briefly tapped on the fact the like about your Batman video and like starting to do more retrospective stuff. What is in the future for your channel?
we're going to continue the Spider-Man retrospective, not only
Mhm.
with movies, but with things like the Nicholas Hammond movies. We're going to be looking at old cartoons and TV shows, but I'm going to be applying that same model to other projects as well. There will be a Batman retrospective series going all the way from 1966 through to today, hopefully ending off with maybe ending off with Batman the Brave and the Bold in like 2025, I think. I don't know, who
Mhm.
knows. But it's one of those things where yeah, I've got long-term plans to kind of go back over the histories of these characters. And I mean, this isn't the first time I've ever done a Spider-Man retrospective. I did one in the lead up to, or in the aftermath of Spider-Man Far From Home. It was mainly for the ad revenue back then, but
Mhm.
nowadays it's more of an actual retrospective. And I thought the thing was absolute dookie, so I decided I would go back and redo it now with my, I guess, better critical thinking skills compared to what they were back in 2019, and better video quality compared to what it was back in
Yeah.
2019. Because I think it's important to be, fair on each movie. Back then, I had a massive hate boner for like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which I don't anymore, because, well, I've learned to look at them for what they are rather than just be an angry little fanboy, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's definitely more retrospectives in the future, and when the Russell T Davies run of Doctor Who returns, I plan on covering that as well. I kind of do want to do like retrospectives on Doctor Who as well,
Mhm.
and it's kind of just reintroducing some of the things that people originally subscribed to this channel for. Gotham retrospectives are on the cards,
Mhm.
and like Sonic stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be getting a proper retrospective somewhere down the line, including the various cartoons and movies. So there's just
Mhm.
in some ways it's like more of the same, but it's like the best version of it, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. But it's safe to say that you've got like a lot under your belt, and you've got a lot like of plans like for the future, right? Like all these retrospectives, it feels like you're very much like formulated and you're like planned out like what projects you're going to do yet. And so yeah, like 100%. And I'm excited to see, especially like your opinions on the brand new Doctor Who series. So yeah, I can't wait till that comes out.
Terrific. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll absolutely be sure to work on it. Like I
Hmm.
kind of got a little disengaged from Doctor Who content for a bit. Like is it controversial for me to say that I didn't care for the Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker run?
No, no, I think like 95% of people would agree with you.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of bad. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it had its brighter moments. Like I was enjoying Flux up until the finale completely made me feel like I wasted my time. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, we will revisit Doctor Who at some point. Again, it's just I want to keep in touch with the audience that started it all while still
Yeah.
making stuff that will reward new viewers too. So that's I'm kind of thinking like, 5-year plan, how many retrospectives can I just stuff into this thing, and how Sorry, I think my monitor went off. Are we still good?
Yeah, yeah, we're still good.
Okay, my bad. Okay, cool.
But no, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those retrospectives, and I really do appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Hey, no trouble. Thanks for reaching out. I've had a lot of fun today.
Yeah, no worries, man. And for everyone watching today's episode, if you did enjoy our conversation, please go out and look at some of Channel Pup's content. There's loads of stuff over there, loads of opinions and reviews. So if you did enjoy some of the conversations that we're having, there's plenty more like of stuff over there. So thank you again for everyone for watching today's episode of Trash Talk. And I've been
Don't
your host,
forget to
Samuel.
promote yourself. You got to get
Yeah,
them to
oh yeah,
subscribe to your thing, yeah.
yeah, true. And everyone watching today's video, please consider subscribing to Trash Talk for future of like literal episodes with people that you like and content creators that you watch. So thank you everyone for watching today's episode. I've been your host Samuel, and I've been with Channel Pup, and I will catch you in the next episode of Trash Talk.